Welcome back to the Standing Room Only podcast, episode number 5. It's already been a month, 28 days so far of recording these, and I've had a blast. The results are starting to show. A lot of people are starting to download the podcast, listen to it weekly, and we just hope that it continues. Today should be a pretty good episode. As always, you can follow us on social media, on Twitter at SROnlyPod, and it's the same for Instagram. You can follow Goose on social media, Goose with 4 O's.
4 O's.
And then you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram at the Healy6. You can also follow my YouTube channel and Twitch stream, which I live stream on occasionally. I upload every day. Live streaming, a little iffy, but Healy6, if you are following from like other platforms and aren't following the podcast straight from what I do originally. I'll just start off the episode. This episode will be in honor of Norman Rand, my grandfather. Talking about sports, he passed away last Wednesday or Tuesday, Wednesday, somewhere around there. And he was a part of the original Milwaukee Admirals team 50 years ago.
Wow.
So he got to go to their celebration before the season started, sign a bunch of autographs. He's in some type of Wisconsin Hockey Hall of Fame. He only played a couple seasons with the Milwaukee Admirals, but had to just shout him out before starting the episode.
That's awesome. Well, sorry to hear that, man.
We're going to start off with MLB this week. I don't know if you guys have caught the format. We do baseball, then NFL, and NBA. We're going to try to keep it similar for every single podcast so you guys know what section to look for if you're trying to just skip around for certain sections, and just make it easier on you guys. And especially with baseball being in the off season, we'll get the quick stuff out of the way. Dustin is a Chicago White Sox fan, and they had a couple moves this week. They signed Yasmani Grandal.
They did.
To a 4-year, $83 million deal.
Yeah, something along the lines there. It was one of their biggest signings in the history, surprisingly. Those who know, we just don't like to spend too much money. It was nice to see that and to see Jose Abreu get extended as well. So hopefully the front office is serious about this rebuild, and with Grandal getting signed, hopefully this is one of many moves. Hopefully maybe Garrett Cole or we sign a big arm coming up here soon. So it's nice to see. Being a Southsider, a fan of the Sox, it's tough. I have a lot of pride, but I will stand behind the White Sox. It's nice to see them moving in the right direction right now. So.
Yeah, the White Sox, Yasmani Grandal, one of the best catchers in baseball at the moment. Doesn't hit for average too well, but he came off a career year hitting for extra bases. He's a great defending catcher, and he's one of the best free agents that were on the market. Sox needed to fill that position, even with James McCann being there. He had an all-star type season, but Yasmani Grandal, he is better. He's been proven to be better. And McCann's contract would have ended after next year. They locked up Grandal for the next 4. So maybe they trade McCann before the season. If not, McCann could play DH. And when Grandal needs a day off, Grandal could DH. And then McCann can catch. They could just flip-flop back and forth. Also, the White Sox last year, they learned from their mistakes, which is good. Last year, they waited for Machado and Harper. They waited all season. And those guys didn't get signed until February of last year.
Yeah.
And they threw all their chips into that basket. They didn't sign any of them, and they were left with the crumbs of the offseason.
Nothing, yeah.
This offseason, it's not as big with like Machado and Harper, but there's still some free agents out there, and they decided to just get who they can at the moment and build their team around that.
Yeah, and I think that was, at the time being a White Sox fan, them not pursuing or throwing the amount of money at Harper and Machado that they wanted, or the 10-year contract that they wanted, because with baseball, it's all guaranteed. So when the White Sox didn't do that, I was a little hurt that this is what, they do. This is how they care for the fan base. But now it's kind of looking up with the fact that they did jump out and sign Yasmani. And they also have the salary cap for another big signing, which I'm still hoping for.
Yeah, hopefully they get Garrett Cole or Steven Strasburg.
Strasburg would be huge.
Doesn't look like he's going to go to the White Sox. Garrett Cole would be a great one. Zach Wheeler would be a good signing for them. But Garrett Cole, number one option. As you said, they also re-signed Jose Abreu. They extended him. He wanted to stay there.
Yeah.
And they signed him for a decent amount of money. He probably could have taken the league minimum and stayed there. He wanted to be a part of something. And this team's looking like it will be like a playoff team next couple of years and get to that next level point.
Yeah. Pretty much touching base with that with Jose Abreu. Like you said, he could have taken the minimum. They did dish out a good chunk of change to him. Nothing. I feel like he could have gotten more with another ball club that could have used him. So for him to get what he got, it was well deserved. Could he have gotten more? Sure, but in the long run, it's gonna work out and play in his favor. For one, he just loves being a Southsider. He has fun with the team, the young talent. So I'm happy that they decided to cut the check to him. So,
and also the White Sox did end up cutting Yolmer Sanchez this week. He won a Gold Glove last year. He isn't great offensively, and in this day and age, if you can't hit the baseball, and unless you are Kevin Kiermaier or like Harrison Bader in the outfield, you aren't really needed. And he was a second baseman. Like, I would rather take a guy who can hit over that. All he did was play defense.
That was it. Which second baseman, easily replaceable on the defensive side. Besides a couple of plays here and there, it's all to first base. It's right there. I can't name any second baseman out there that's that bad with errors, to be honest. So
yeah, they Brewers moved Mike Moustakas to play second base a few times, Travis Shaw. It's a very easy defensive position to stick people in. And his slugging was only his on base was like 318 or something. His slugging was like 321. So basically, if he did get on base, which was rare, he would get singles.
That's it.
It wasn't like Grandal, who had like a similar average, but Grandal hit almost 30 homers. He would get doubles. Yolmer Sanchez, singles guy. And he was scheduled to make like $6 million. He's not worth $6 million. No way. So the right move on that part. A team will sign him. I don't expect it to be a good team. Hopefully he can bounce back, but
yeah, maybe the Gold Glove gets him $6 million elsewhere. But with what they have going on for this rebuild, this phase 2 or whatever you want to call it, save the $6 million. We don't need Yammer. Sorry, Yammer. You're cool, but not really.
Yeah, they could always move Moncada back to second.
Yeah.
They're gonna fill that spot with ease.
Yeah, and I feel like that's the way baseball is now. We have a lot of the infielders are more like utility men. They're kind of floating around, like you said. Moustakas, a couple other guys got moved to second base. Travis Shaw. So at this point, rotating to second base, maybe picking somebody up, whatever it may be. If it's Moncada playing second base, I think the Sox will be okay.
Someone asked on Twitter today if you would rather sign Garrett Cole to like a max deal, 7 years, $32 million a year, maybe like 32.5. I don't know the exact number he put. It was like 7 years, $254 million. Or do you sign Hyun-Jin Ryu for 3 years, $66 million? Talked about it briefly before the podcast. And if I was in the Cubs position, it depends. You can't necessarily pick one or the other. If there's no restrictions, I would pick Garrett Cole in the long run.
Yeah.
No doubt about that. I think he will do better money-wise. But like in the Cubs position, I would take Ryu. He said 3 years, $66 million compared
Correct.
to the 7, whatever. So you'd save money on Ryu. And for the Cubs, you don't want to dish out a lot of money right now. They're going to be spending money on contracts. For the White Sox perspective, you take Garrett Cole every day.
You're going to grab Garrett Cole. I believe he's a couple years younger. and you're looking down for long term. We have a nice young core coming up. You want the longevity. You want to be able to at least look at the next 5 to 10 years and say, okay, we're going to guarantee at least 2 World Series runs, hopefully. I would say overall, definitely Garrett Cole over Rio.
Every week before, on the day of recording, on the Instagram and Twitter, I do post questions, or like I put out like tweets or posts for anyone to ask questions to be discussed on the podcast. If you want a chance to do that, just follow us on the social media, Ask Our Only Pod on Instagram or Twitter, and you could ask us questions throughout the week, and we'll make sure to get to it during the podcast most of the time. There's a couple like out of our range that we don't necessarily have the answer to, or aren't as made towards the podcast.
Yeah, which is fine. Or just comment on our posts, Twitter, Instagram. I would say we try to be as interactive as possible. We had somebody reaching out to us on Instagram in the comment section. I know I replied to it in regards to Carmelo. So we definitely, appreciate the love and the follows, but the interaction, we'd appreciate too. So don't hold back. I'd say ask away and keep us busy. And we're 2 guys who love to talk sports all day. So
yeah, and if you're the one listening to the podcast and want to ask questions, go ahead and we'll just answer your questions, and you could listen to it on the way to work, or working out, wherever you listen to it. Moving on to the NFL, they'll do it for baseball today. Not really too much in the offseason.
Yeah, we'll touch base here and there as teams sign players, but a whole lot going on in the NFL.
Lamar Jackson, he's number 1 MVP at the moment. No doubt about it. A couple weeks ago, I think we had Wilson and maybe like Deshaun Watson or is McCaffrey.
McCaffrey was up there because the Panthers were still in the playoff hunt. They're winning football games. McCaffrey's running out of his mind. He doesn't look like he's fatigued at all. And then Lamar Jackson was a floater. And then all of a sudden, Lamar Jackson is like, if there was a rating higher than 99 in Madden, that's him, is Lamar Jackson. Hands down, Lamar. We still don't have a nickname for him yet. We're gonna work on that. Lamar Video Game Jackson, literally hands down, in every sense of the term, MVP is him. He's the MVP right now.
Yeah, since that discussion, they demolished the Patriots.
Yeah.
They demolished the Texans.
Yeah.
They demolished the Rams. They're going up against the 49ers this week. Lamar had, I think, 5 passing touchdowns yesterday.
Yeah.
On like 170 passing yards. That's not a lot for like 5 touchdowns worth. He ran the ball for, I think, 95 yards. And Mark Ingram ran it for like 150.
Yeah. They have so many threats on the offense. It doesn't matter who your defense is. I mean, the Patriots are the number 1 rated defense. Aside from what I call a weaker schedule. We saw what they did, obviously, to the Cowboys. For Lamar Jackson to pick apart the Patriots, the Texans have a pretty good defense, minus J.J. Watt being hurt. The Rams aren't even that bad of a defense, but they looked horrible because of Lamar Jackson. He opens the game.
Break offense.
It's literally a fast break offense, yeah. They have it. They have it right now. I don't see how he's not MVP, how this team doesn't, if they keep it up, going to the playoffs as a favorite. They obviously have one more tough matchup.
I think they have a couple, but this is the toughest one.
The toughest, yeah.
49ers. It's in Baltimore, though, so that's good.
It is in Baltimore, so you're moving the Niners from the nice, warm West Coast weather over to the East Coast. It's going to be a little bit colder. And the weird thing about that game is that it's a 12 o'clock game. And I only say it's weird because you have the 2 best teams, but that's just how the schedule worked. Nobody predicted that. And I don't see them flexing up to the 7 o'clock, the primetime game.
It would have been nice if they got flexed to like a 3 o'clock game.
Yeah. Yeah. Ravens obviously just played on Monday night. So, with the Patriots being Sunday night, I don't see them getting flexed. But it's a huge game. I say Ravens, I don't know. Like, this 49ers defense is scary.
And they've demolished a lot of good teams, too. They put up a fight against the Seahawks. They probably should have won that game. They gave that a little away. They've played great against other teams as well. They demolished the Packers this week.
Yeah, that was tough to watch. You know, I'm wearing my Packers hat with pride right now. Watching that game, because I didn't watch as many games as I normally do in the week, but I made it a point to watch this game because I thought for sure Rodgers going into the West Coast, coming off the bye week, that he was just going to be comfortable. Bosa, the rest of the defense, made it as uncomfortable as I've ever seen Rodgers feel or look. I felt scared for him. I almost shed a tear for him. There was a couple times where he got hit. It wasn't a sack. He got hit, and I thought for sure, knowing his history, he's like a porcelain doll. I thought he was going to get up hurt at one point. Luckily, he didn't. We took the loss. I've never seen... Well, the Chargers did it to the Packers a few weeks ago. Our line, their line, the Packers line isn't the best. But the way the 49ers got in, it's going to be tough to... I mean, you need a mobile quarterback. I think Lamar Jackson might be the one to pick their defense apart, but maybe not. Maybe I'm just hoping for a Michael Vick effect in that game. But yeah, this 49ers defense, even their offense looked really well. The Packers had they have a strong defense or had a strong defense to start the season. That slowly is going back to what we know as the Packers defense, giving up the big plays. They're, top 10 or bottom 10 ranked for passing yards, and just total defense just dropped. So,
do they have any injuries, or is it just the season is starting to get to them?
No, it's starting to get to them. They've had some injuries here and there, but I mean, as far as I know, they're pretty much healthy. I know that I believe Balaga on the offensive line got hurt, but at that point, Rodgers was already getting hit, so he wasn't really making a difference. But that's the offense. The defense, Preston Smith, they have the Smith brothers. They got in a couple of times. They did what they could on Garoppolo, but that's one of those offenses where if they get time, those receivers are so fast. Their running backs are fast. It's just a fast team. There was just nothing going on. The Green Bay couldn't stop them to save their lives.
So, yeah, that'll be a great game to watch on Sunday, 49ers versus
it's going to be, I would say, game of the week, but maybe game of the year. But then that Patriots and Texans game could be a toss-up, too. I know the Texans haven't been the hottest team that they were, a few weeks ago. But I think that they can give the Patriots a tough time. So that's going to be a good game to watch as well.
Yeah, we won't claim it as game of the week, game of the year, or anything. We'll just say Super Bowl matchup potential.
Yeah, potential Super Bowl matchup. I would definitely prefer to see. Well, at this point, I would like to see anybody but the Patriots in the Super Bowl. Not to hate on the Patriots, but
just to get some parity.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson this week, he was just all right. 13 of 25. Not a great completion game for him. 200 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. They did come out with the dub over the Eagles, so they are 9-2 on the year. Rashad Penny, 129 yards. The Ravens, we already talked about. The Redskins beat the Lions. That hurts a lot. The Jets smoked Oakland this week. Oakland needed a dub. I think they were pretty close to the division, and they flopped against the Jets.
Yeah.
Flopped big time.
Yeah, that was, 34-3. Sam Darnold is looking like an MVP out there randomly the past couple of games. To see Oakland not score a touchdown, I guess I'm not surprised, but only 3 points. That was a huge loss for Oakland. Because like you said, in that division, it was on the closer side. Kansas City's still in that division. Kansas City, at this point, I don't know, with Pat Mahomes back, they're pretty much fully healthy. I can see them just running away with the division at this point.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I feel like we don't talk enough about the Chiefs because they have had their share of injuries. They're 7-4 right now.
You're with Mahomes back now.
Yeah, and it's funny because their home record is 2-3, and on the road they're 5-1. I think a couple of those losses were while Mahomes was out. But yeah, that whole division I feel like is going to be the Chiefs, and then Oakland Chargers. None of those teams are going to be a wild card team. At that point,
They were on a bye this week, so can't necessarily talk about the Chiefs this week. Going forward, though, should be able to, as they're playing the Raiders this week. One game separates the two teams. Whoever wins that, Chiefs will get big lead, 2-game lead in that division.
Yeah.
If the Raiders win, then the division will be tied. New Orleans this week, 134-31 over the Panthers. Seemed like a shootout. The Saints haven't looked as great since Drew Brees came back. Not saying it's on Drew Brees, but like with Teddy Bridgewater, they seem to be winning games with ease. And ever since Brees came back, even with Michael Thomas going off
every week,
it's just they're close games.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things where, in the regular season so far, I think they lost to the Rams. They lost to Atlanta, and it was weird games because this is a top offense, and you would think with Drew Brees, Michael Thomas, Kamara, the weapons that they have, they should have no issues putting up 21 points a game or 28, whatever it may be. But there was a lot of games where their defense stepped up, and they forced the turnovers, they got the sacks, but then they had their games where, such as last week where Carolina puts up 31 points. Now, not to take anything away from Carolina, they do have Christian McCaffrey, but, they gave up 31 points there. The week before against Tampa, they gave up only 17 points, and Tampa's kind of like one of those toss-up teams where they might put up 40 points because their receiving core is probably the best in the game. And then, they lost to Atlanta the week before, but the Saints do have a tough schedule coming up. Atlanta, they already lost to. Atlanta being, what are they, 2-8, 3-7, whatever they aren't truly, they play better than what their record is. They do have
Atlanta's
talent.
3-8 at the moment.
So they're 3-8. They're playing
Thursday night game.
Thursday night. Yep, it's a Thanksgiving game
in Atlanta. So that's not good. Home teams on Thursday night games normally win.
Yep.
It's normally not a good showing from the road team. We'll have to see what the Saints do this week and see if they can keep that bye week. I think they're locked into a bye at the moment, so as long as they keep winning, they'll get that bye spot.
Yeah.
Packers losing,
that was huge.
Didn't help them.
But then again, the Saints after the Falcons do have the 49ers. So we'll see. The schedules it's a toss-up for some teams. We're going to see some really good matchups. Anything could happen in the next few weeks. So there was the Patriots and Cowboys game was kind of an interesting game to watch. You look at the score and you're like, wow, 9-13. I think the over-under was 44.5 on this game. I would have gone over.
Yeah.
Just thinking the Patriots alone could have at least, defensive touchdown, and then Tom Brady, and then with Dak Prescott, I didn't really think that, the Patriots do have a really good defense. It was like the number one offense in the Cowboys versus the number one ranked defense in the Patriots. How good are these two teams? And I think the Patriots really showed out, and they proved that their schedule, regardless of it being a weaker schedule, doesn't matter. They have Gilmore and all this other talent on the defense, and their defensive backs do not give up the big plays. Receivers might catch a quick slant route, and we're seeing them get hit and tackled immediately. So it was a good game. The weather was kind of on the shitty side, but overall, I enjoyed the game, I would say. I mean, it was slow, but for it being 9-13, did you end up seeing the end of the game?
I saw there was 2 tripping calls that ended up not being tripping calls.
Yeah, there was a couple tripping calls. Weird calls to begin with. The end of the game, it was Tom Brady. They try to throw the ball out of bounds to waste the time, but it landed, or they called it out of bounds with 1 second left because of where they tossed it. So it reminded me of last year, I think it was last season, when Miami did the trick play on New England to win the game with the last second. And the Cowboys threw like a hook route to Gallup or Cooper or somebody, and it ended the game. It was a horrible attempt. Not even a Hail Mary pass, but it was an interesting game to watch. We saw a lot with the Patriots there. So
it was like earlier in the year, the Patriots have had a couple close games against pretty decent teams.
Yeah.
The Bills was 17-13.
Yeah,
so they show like they can grind out games and they don't have to be in shootouts against other teams.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason why I said, even though the Ravens did pick apart the Patriots, Belichick is a genius. When it comes down to the playoffs, I will not bet against the Patriots. I don't care what the spread is. If you want to do an over-under, cool, but I will not bet against the Patriots, even though Lamar Jackson is. Say he gets crowned MVP, goes over 1,000 yards on the ground. He's torn up all the best teams in the league. Tom Brady and Belichick, name a better duo. I'll wait.
You can in football.
Not for football, no.
Not football. Maybe Popovich and Duncan in basketball, but Brady does have 6 Super Bowls. They only had 5 championships.
Yeah, that's tough.
Or Jordan and
Pippen. And,
Jordan and Jackson.
Or you mean the coach-player duo? Yeah.
Coach.
That's arguably one of the best duos too. That's a whole separate argument we can get into about best players and best coaches of all time. But
for football's sake, Belichick and Brady, they're just 2 peas in a pod, and they know what to do when it comes down to it.
Yeah. NFL, this is it. Last couple weeks, we're going to see who's going to clinch, who's not. Obviously, we know some of the teams that are going to clinch.
Must-watch football.
It's coming up in the next couple weeks. I would say wild card wise, or wild card, as far as speaking for the wild card, we know that in the NFC, it's going to be swallowed up. That 5th seed is going to be swallowed up by somebody in the West. The Seahawks are still good.
Yeah, they're 9-2 right now.
So Seahawks can easily take that division from the Niners. So one of those two, and then I still feel like Packers, Vikings will take that other spot. We don't know.
Yeah, there's still 2 games up on the wild card. Whoever ends up with that wild card spot, 2 games up. The Rams, that lost yesterday, hurt them quite a bit.
Oh, yeah.
Besides that, you have the Bears, Eagles, and Panthers who are all 5-6. I just don't see any of those teams sneaking into the playoffs.
No.
AFC, there's still a lot of toss-up because you have...
AFC is anybody at this point.
You have the Bills with 8 wins, and then you have the Steelers at 6, and then you have the Raiders at 6, Colts at 6, Titans at 6. You have the Browns at 5. You also have Jacksonville and Chargers and the Jets who at 4.
Yeah.
That's a long shot, but still, there's so many teams within 1 or 2 games.
Yeah, the AFC is a toss-up. I personally think the Bills, that defense is playing great. I don't see them losing. Maybe, I guess they could lose 3 more games, and then it's truly a toss-up for the 2 wildcard spots. Steelers have been surprisingly playing very well for a team that lost Big Ben at the beginning of the season. Mason Rudolph.
The Titans with Ryan Tannehill now in that quarterback.
I think I said at the beginning of the season, I think it might have been like week 1 of the podcast, Mariota they've needed to get rid of him for a while. He just doesn't have it. He's not the scrambling quarterback that he once was. They wanted to rely on him in the pocket. His accuracy is trash. It's garbage.
It's like what Mitch Trubisky would look like in 5 years.
It's like Mitch Trubisky 75% of the time this season, which he showed signs. That's a whole nother topic, but Trubisky showed signs in this last game, but then again, it was the Giants.
Yeah, they were going up against the Giants, and they almost blew the game. I'm not going to credit. Trubisky had a couple nice, good passes. He had a couple completions that were over 5 yards.
Yeah. He had a few towards the end of the game. I think he had a 30-yard touchdown pass to A-Rob.
Yeah.
Allen Robinson's phenomenal. He, a few years ago when he was with Jacksonville, put up incredible numbers. We're like, wow.
He might be the most underrated wide receiver in football.
in the game.
He's had to play with Blake Bortles and now Mitch Trubisky. Imagine if he was with a good quarterback.
He makes
the numbers
Trubisky
that
look
he'd
good
put up.
sometimes. There's some
Yeah.
passes where he's reaching out, risking his body, and he's pulling it in. I got a question for you. So NFC, we're talking about wild cards, right? We were just talking about the AFC, the NFC. The Bears, statistically, on paper, have a chance to sneak into the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
Let's just say it happens.
Mhm.
Do you consider them a threat in the playoffs, considering their defense?
Oh, their defense is still pretty solid. They've kind of like choked against the good teams though. They've kept some games close, but I'm going to say no.
No.
Their
Okay.
offense is just so bad that it doesn't make up for their good defense.
I agree with you. I had to bring it up because I had a long conversation with somebody, and they said, what if Trubisky comes around and is more so on the last year side of
Yeah.
Trubisky things?
Yeah, if he shows out like he did in this game for the next few to end it out, and let's say they do sneak in, then sure. But he has not looked like last year where he would scramble, he would make plays, he would get out of the pocket and just launch it and complete it. He's just stuck in the pocket and stuck in like a bad system.
Yeah, being in the Chicago, in the city of Chicago, as everybody's eyes on, it's a hard market to play in. I feel like last year he played carefree. He was young. The city loved him. Now with the scrutiny, him and Coach Nagy, these guys under pressure, they overthink. The play calling's horrible too.
Yeah.
It's not all Trubisky.
Matt Nagy is a big reason behind that.
Yeah,
It's kind of funny to think about how the coaches of the year, the last 3 years, it was Matt Nagy, Sean McVay, and Jason Garrett are all pretty bad coaches now. Sean McVay last year and the past couple years he's been great. And now he's like Matt Nagy, where his offense, he just doesn't know what to do on offense.
And Jared Goff, you're like, oh, wow, Jared Goff isn't bad. He's got all these passing yards. Well, for one, he should. He has very, very talented offense around him, good receivers. But also, you're playing from behind. You're passing 40 times a game, whatever it may be.
They'll give you those 5-6 yard passes.
And that's why I don't look at, the statistics. I look at, okay, your wins-loss, and the matchups against good teams, like you said with the Bears, you're losing against the good teams, and with Jared Goff, I don't know. He showed signs last year. I thought he was going to be good. I drafted him in one of my fantasy leagues, and he showed signs this year. But the Rams, they fell off hard, and I think that Super Bowl loss, they're definitely dealing with that hangover. The Patriots exposed them a lot, and even with the moves that they made to get rid of Marcus Peters and Aqib Talib and bring in, Jalen Ramsey, which I thought was a good move. Jalen Ramsey is a stud.
Helps out their defense a lot.
It does.
Their offense is the one that needs work.
Yeah, I'm very surprised to see that they're doing what they're doing. But then again, they're still in the hunt. Definitely, I would say, I don't know if they're gonna slip into the playoffs. It's a tough. They have the hardest division. So
whoever does slip into the playoffs, I'm not gonna think like if anyone does, like they beat out the Vikings or Packers, or they do somehow get the Seahawks out of the playoffs. If someone does slide in, they aren't a threat. I don't see any of those teams being more dominant than the ones that are already in the hunt.
Agreed. Yeah, and that's just it. I mean, Dallas is 6-5 in their division. They're definitely not getting a first round bye if they end up sneaking in as a playoff team.
They'll get home field though.
They will. They'll be home because they'll have the division. But then again, the Eagles are right behind. It's a one game. I don't know which team I'd rather see. They're both kind of.
I'd say probably Cowboys.
I'd rather see the Cowboys. I don't know. I feel like maybe if they just don't win, they'll finally fire Jason Garrett, which should have happened at this point.
Jerry Jones seems to love him.
Yeah, but he's been, I think after this last game against the Patriots, he was very critical about the play calling and not putting up points when they should be. So we'll see. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a business, right? So, and you know what? Dallas isn't bad. They have a good defense. Their offense is good. But then again, it's like, they put up numbers against the okay teams. So,
and it's been 20 plus years since they've had a playoff. I don't know about playoff victory. It actually might have been about 20 years.
Well, I can tell you recently they lost They lost a couple to the Packers. There was the one play with Dez Bryant with the drop, the catch rule, whatever you want to call it, and then there was one where I believe the Packers also beat them another time. The sideline catch. Yeah, so we
field goal.
Yeah, who was the tight end that caught that? I'm drawing a blank right now. I forgot who it was, but yeah, it was the last second field goal to win the game. Cowboys were like 12-4 on the year, had an amazing year. So they've lost some heartbreakers, and at this point, it's somebody's got to go.
Looking at the games for this week to end out the NFL content. 3 Thursday night football games this week. It is Turkey Day, so it'll actually be fun to watch football throughout the day, and hopefully we get some good games. Normally on Thursdays, I don't watch the games. It's not well advertised and everything. So Bears Lions, 12:30. That should be a good one. The last matchup in Chicago, the Lions almost came back.
Yeah, that was a close game. It was so that's a 12:30 Eastern time. So for our time for Chicago is 11:30. So it's a little bit earlier, which is nice. That's going to be followed up by the Cowboys and Bills. Yeah. I think that's going to be an awesome game to watch. You're going to have the Bills defense going up against Dak Prescott.
Ezekiel
Elliott, who at some point is going to start going off, hopefully.
Good to see Josh Allen on primetime.
Josh Allen, he's the truth, man. I'm telling you, his statistics don't show it, but he is an X factor and will be when it comes playoff time.
Then the night game, Saints at Falcons. We'll have to see if the Saints come out and actually beat the Falcons. That's going to be like a 7 o'clock Central Time game. So a little bit of a nighttime game. I don't know if I'll be up watching that. I don't know. I might be sick of football at that point. Yeah. We'll have to see. And normally that matchup, I always like watching the Cowboys and Lions because of their tradition. Like the random teams they put for that one game. I might watch it because Drew Brees, but it's not necessarily.
It's going to be a fun game to watch for offensive purposes. So, Drew Brees against Atlanta is always a fun game. I feel like there's always some sort of shootout, minus the last game that they really didn't score any points. But Drew Brees, I mean, can you do it to him twice? Probably not.
No. Moving on to Sunday, we have Titans Colts. They're both 6-5.
Divisional game.
They need to win. You have the Jets and Bengals. I guess the Jets need to keep winning if they want a chance at the playoffs. Bengals have not won yet. You don't want to lose to them. You got the Redskins, Panthers. That should be an okay.
Haskins got his first win last week.
Did you hear about him at the end of the game?
When he took the selfie and they couldn't find him for the
Case Keenum had to take the knee.
Yeah, the victory formation. Yeah, I think that's hilarious. But at the same time, if I'm the coach, I'm gonna say, hey, fun is fun, but you got to be out there for that.
As Case Keenum, I would be mad, especially because he's a NFL veteran. His starting job got taken, and he's like, really? I have to go out there and kneel the ball to end the game?
At that point, you could have sent the place kicker out there to take the knee, but yeah, I would have been a little salty too. Haskins, he didn't, it was his first NFL victory. He's young, he's a rookie.
He enjoyed the moment.
Let him live in the moment. You know what? I won't get mad at him. It's not like they're, battling for the playoffs. It's a horrible season for them anyways. The matchup I'm looking forward to,
49ers Ravens,
the Browns and Steelers.
Ooh, that'll be a good noon game.
Part 2. This is part 2. No Myles Garrett.
No, Mason Randolph is benched.
Yeah, who knows? But
tempers are going to be flaring.
Yeah, did you I think I saw it was a pregame for the Browns. Who did they, or is it Steelers? I don't remember who it was, but there was like people hitting Mason.
Yeah. I saw that on Twitter.
Yeah, you saw that they were hitting the piñata. and they were hitting it with like a helmet.
Yeah, a Steelers helmet.
A Steelers
too.
helmet. Yeah, that was hilarious. It's sensitive subject, I guess. Not really to me. I think it's hilarious. Fans having fun. I think it's gonna be it's a huge matchup because you have the Browns who are starting to show up. Baker Mayfield's starting to play a little bit better. Odell's starting to pop out a little bit. Jarvis has been consistent, I would say. They have a chance for the playoffs. It's a realistic chance. And then you have the Steelers who are ahead of them by a game.
Yeah, and have that wild card spot at the moment. So the AFC this week, great matchups. Like I said, Titans, Colts, whoever wins that will still be in the hunt and probably tied for that playoff spot. Browns and Steelers, whoever wins that will be tied. If the Browns win, they'll be tied. Steelers will keep holding it. And then at the 4 o'clock game, you have Raiders, Chiefs fighting for both the wild card position and the division.
That could end up being a close game. Chiefs defense is horrible, and Josh Jacobs likes to run. That dude is shifty. His average per carry is out of this world. He's only a rookie.
Derrick Henry demolished the Chiefs defense.
Oh yeah. And so we'll see. Maybe, they're giving the Chiefs a 9.5 point spread. I would personally, I don't know. It's hard to say because Oakland's defense is pretty bad too. So it should be a shootout. At least we think. I would take the Chiefs in that game. Over under 51.5. Definitely going over with that. And then, of course, we have New England and the Texans, which we mentioned already. That's going to be a fun game to watch. And then you have the Monday night game, Vikings and Seahawks. I will be glued to the TV watching that simply because, as a Packers fan, Seattle wins. Hopefully gives us a little bit of space, depending on how, our week goes against the Giants. But then again, it's the 2 wildcard teams are going at it. So somebody in the NFC is going to be happy watching one of these teams lose.
Yeah. Yeah, they definitely, no one wants to lose out of that. The Seahawks can take a loss. The Vikings, you want to keep your position 2 games above everyone else. So that'll be insane. Kirk Cousins, another primetime performance.
Yeah, we'll see what he does. We know historically, not the best.
This year, he's been great.
Yeah, he's been doing pretty well.
And then Russell Wilson.
Which Russ is Russ. He's still second, third in the MVP runnings, whatever you want to rank him with. Christian McCaffrey. We'll see. We'll definitely see. But that's pretty much it for the NFL. One thing I want to touch base on, I always have my picks of the week for FanDuel.
Fantasy.
So let me go ahead and pull those up real quick. There's some good ones. As we mentioned, the Jets are playing the 0-11 Cincinnati Bengals. Sam Darnold's been hot the past couple of games, and I didn't think he had it in him, even against a Pee Wee football team, to ever put up any numbers. He is facing a Bengals defense that is horrible. They're last in running in the run defense, 21st to giving up against passers, ranked dead last in total defense. So for a cheap buy for quarterback, Sam Darnold, he's 7,600. That's going to open the door for expensive position players such as Michael Thomas, who at this point is almost a must start every week, even though he is expensive. He's 9,200. I feel like primetime Thursday night, my boy's going to want to eat. And he's playing Atlanta. He's going to want his revenge. Atlanta is one of the worst pass defenses. They're going to come out and get some numbers. Along with that, I would say that's pretty much, cheap buy, heavy buy. And then I'm also going with Saquon Barkley against Green Bay simply because, not because I lost faith in my defense. I still have faith in the Green Bay Packers defense, but I'm also a realistic thinker. And I would suggest Barkley goes for $150 and a couple touchdowns too. So those are going to be my top picks right there.
We can see that, especially, unless they're down, then Daniel Jones will probably pass a lot.
Hey, passes to Saquon Barkley still add up.
Mm-hmm.
So it could very well be high scoring for Saquon in any situation there.
Sam Darnold, what also might help him break out. I heard after their win, they went to the club or whatever, and there was reports from someone in there that he was out having a great time, and he like hooked up with a girl.
Met a girl. Maybe got, maybe that's what he needed. Win a couple games. Meet, a female companion, get his mojo back.
Yeah, go out, have some fun, and then, could fall
maybe it
out
sparked
again.
something. Because obviously the guy was good at one point in time in his life, and he's starting to prove it. He's you got to have fun still, and you're playing this horrible Bengals, team. So prep for the week and go out, and we don't imagine the Bengals winning any games anyways at this point. Why not tank and get the the number one pick, whatever they're gonna do. So, but those are definitely my picks right there, and Le'Veon Bell might fall in my picks too. I can give you my whole lineup, but you gotta pay me for that.
NBA time. Last week, we'll start off right away. Carmelo Anthony.
Melo.
I took a shit on him. I thought he wasn't gonna be great.
I, and probably the rest of the world took a dump on him. Melo, we always have hope for Melo because he's been in the league so long. He's always been a stud out there, top scorer. His decline happened so fast, and it made you wonder, like, what happened. Maybe it was, like, personal issues, maybe him and Lala, something, outside of what we see on TV or in the news. Him going to the Trailblazers, we thought was the best case scenario because they're not doing so hot. They like to shoot the ball. Maybe he'll catch his mojo. I didn't expect him to do anything.
No. After the podcast, he just went off against, I forgot what team, and then he went off against the Bulls.
Yeah.
He demolished the team that Dustin and I both root for, the Chicago Bulls. And they won by like 20 points. He had like a plus minus of like 20 in that game and demolished it. So maybe I am going to have to eat my own words of how long he lasts with the Trailblazers.
We thought, I thought they would keep him around because they are the type of team where they truly believe in a good offense will beat a semi-good defense. There are teams like that, as they've done in the past. Melo, they don't really have anybody else besides Dame and CJ McCollum. So add Melo. Let's fill some seats. Let's see what Melo can do. And, I mean, granted, did he have a couple bad games? Sure. But he came around faster than what I thought.
Mm-hmm. He's confident. Just shooting the ball.
Pulling up, grabbing rebounds, cussing everybody out while grabbing a rebound, which I still think is one of the greatest things in our history of basketball here. He did that. He scored 25 with 8 boards as well.
So he's grabbing the boards.
He's grabbing boards, which is good because that was one of the things we're like, well, for him to transition to the power forward position, he's a little bit slower. He's not as big as most power forwards. He's using his body to grab boards, which is huge. And that's pretty much, we saw his turnovers decline as the games went. The first game, which was against the Pelicans, he had 5 turnovers, and if I'm not mistaken, that was all in the first half. So we saw him start off shaky. Next game against Milwaukee, which obviously Milwaukee's a great team, he put up 18 points. So we're like, okay, now we're seeing something. Dropped down to 11, and then again the Bulls, he put up 25, which I'm not surprised when anybody puts up numbers against the Bulls, but to see Melo do it, it's nice. So...
yeah, it seemed like he listened to the podcast last week.
There's a couple players that I think listened to the podcast last week. There was another guy by the name of Zach LaVine who went nuts. He had takeover like it was NBA 2K. Like they dropped, like he went off. What do you have? 49 points.
49 points. He had
Career
13 3-pointers, 13 for 17, which put him second on the list. I think Curry has 14. Thompson has 13.
He tied with Thompson. Thompson, who did that against the Bulls, I believe, last year or the year before. And
the game winner.
They were down 8 points within a minute. They ended up they got it down to 5 points. They hit a 3. I think it was Satoransky.
Yeah.
They forced the full court pressure on the inbounds.
Yeah, didn't foul,
which could have been called a foul, but it's too close to call. LaVine picks it up. I'm pretty sure at one point in slow motion, he looks at Boylan, winked at him to let him know, like, I'm the guy. And he just drilled that three. I mean, the turnaround fade was nuts. Did you see the bench of the Hornets?
No.
So somebody on the bench, I don't remember who it was, just completely threw his hands on his head in shock. He was in awe. And he looked at everybody like, did you guys just see that? You don't usually see that from the other team. But
no. Well, 5 points in 10 seconds. That's a game you don't, or technically at that point you were up 2. That's a game you don't lose. You don't lose 5 points in 10 seconds.
I'm surprised he went for the 3. I'm surprised he didn't go up for the foul. Because he had a couple of seconds. Normally you're like, you know what, get the foul. Get the dunk, get the and one. He made it a point to say, our team's not doing anything. I'm hot. It's a heat check. We lose, okay.
Yeah.
You can't get mad at me. I still had 46 points, right? No, he comes out and he hits that 3. And it reminded me of a time back in the day when a certain someone went off against the Spurs. T-Mac, when he put up however many points. 13 and
48.
Like 40 under, yeah, in like 40 seconds. I didn't think anything like that could ever happen again. Now, granted, it wasn't as good as T-Mac's.
Still a crazy scenario. That's a game you don't lose. You should never lose that type of game.
It's funny. I joked about it. I was like sitting there watching it, and I was like, the Bulls are notorious for blowing fourth quarters, but watch them somehow win this game. And they actually won the game. So now I'm thinking like, these guys know how to win, but then they're just lazy the fourth quarter. Leave it up to Boylan to take somebody off. It doesn't seem like they like Boylan. So at first when he came in, It was like a lot of rumors that he's, working them to the ground. They don't like, his coaching. And then all of a sudden the talks got like quieter on that. The players maybe do like him. And then if you saw after the game, he went to dab everybody up and not one person showed him love.
I thought at the start of the year they liked him.
That's what it seemed like.
And I think
the
now
young guys liked him, and I think he made that comment about Zach LaVine. He criticized him for underperforming and not playing well, which, I mean, his defense does lack quite a bit. It's just one of those things where these guys are young, and they're going to react how they do. And I don't know, it was an awesome game to watch. And then they turn around and get destroyed by Portland. I think I'm starting to swallow my pride now. I do believe that maybe, just maybe, the Bulls are not going to be the 8th seed that I thought. Now, it's still possible. Anything's possible, right? But if you look at this team, Zach LaVine, Kobe White has been going. He's had some games. I feel like if they get Lauri Markkanen going and Wendell Carter's, stays hot, and we just get this group going, that they could still be a 8th seed with a 500 record. But at this point, I am starting to swallow up my pride, and perhaps I'm starting to believe that it just may not be the year. But definitely looking up for this young Bulls team.
Yeah, that game definitely gave me some hope a little bit. Markkanen, he's having a little bit of a down year. So we'll see if he turns it around in the next few weeks towards like the end of the first half. Not a lot of games on tonight. There hasn't been really too many good matchups. A story I did want to point out. Tomorrow, Brooklyn and Boston play each other. Is Kyrie hurt?
Kyrie, I know that he has been on and off. I don't know if they cleared him to play. Let's see. Kyrie, are you playing?
Since a story I wanted to talk about, not Boston and the Nets for the most part. Yeah. Probable is Celtics take on Irvingless Nets. So Kyrie's out for a little bit. I saw a tweet, and it was the stats of his previous teams with Kyrie and without Kyrie. And without Kyrie, these teams play so much better.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes you wonder why. Because when he was with Cleveland, now Kyrie coming into the league, obviously the star-studded college athlete comes into the league, goes to Cleveland, falls out, LeBron joins him. You're like, okay, this team is awesome. Kyrie technically wins the championship for them, even though it was LeBron's performance overall. after that point, I mean, Kyrie still puts up numbers. Kyrie is out there balling like he's second to none. But that statistic, like you're saying, because look at Boston. He's not in Boston, and all of a sudden
They replaced him with Kemba, who's a more all-around guard.
Yeah, Kemba's great. I love Kemba. I know he got carted off in that game a couple days ago.
He's probable for tomorrow. So.
He's probable as well. So it might be two star-studded point guards not playing. It's still going to be a good game to watch. I still think the Nets have a little bit of talent there. Boston should win. Boston's one of the hottest teams right now. So
with Kyrie and like the stats too. You remember a couple of years ago, LeBron was still in Cleveland. The Celtics, without Kyrie and Gordon Hayward, made it to the Eastern Conference Finals.
And they
lost in 7 games.
Yeah, they got to Game 7 with a young team. Very young yet. But the thing is about that team, they had an overall good team. Their defense was really good. They had Avery Bradley. They had, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. I think him dunking on LeBron sparked everything. I'll never forget that. But that team was fun to watch. And then last year, Kyrie
was back, and they didn't do much. He flopped in the playoffs.
Oh, yeah, he flopped horribly.
So
and
it's just like a weird dynamic with him, like, performing. He seems like
it's kind of like
odd man out.
Yeah, it's almost like the media is targeting him as like a cancer to teams, which I guess I don't think that's fair. I don't think he's done really much. It's not. I mean, besides what we heard in the first couple weeks of the NBA season this year, that he was kind of going off the deep end again and not sure if he wanted, what's going on in Brooklyn, and now he's supposedly hurt, and I don't know. We'll see. I mean, obviously they're a team that's in the middle of the pack. They're in the playoff race. We don't expect much from Brooklyn.
Not this year.
Yeah, we don't expect much. I think it would be nice to see them get into the playoffs because they do have some other players that have to get accustomed to that. Because when Durant comes back next year, even if he's not 100%, the same Durant that we know, he's going to ball out, and he's going to tell these guys, like, hey, you've been there. You know what to do. It's me. It's Kyrie. And your guys are going to be the role players. Spencer Dinwiddie, Karis LeVert, DeAndre Jordan coming off the bench and swapping, starting here and there with Jared Allen. So I think Kyrie needs to keep his head on straight here and understand what he has is a good opportunity.
I looked the other day, and I don't think I need to look on Basketball Reference, but as a point guard, you would think that you would dish out some assists here and there. And Kyrie Irving, his highest assist per game average happened. Where is it at? I
think
7.2, which was last year. His career assists per game is 5.7. That's horrible.
It is bad. It's a bad stat because nowadays, especially with point guards, you look at Luka, you look at anybody running the point. You're
Ben Simmons,
LeBron. Yeah. There's LeBron. These guys, they're not okay. You're not labeled as point guards. There's no such thing as positions in the league anymore. There's 5 guys on the court. You have centers technically playing point guard, power forward, small forwards, whatever it may be. It's whoever fits that scheme. With Kyrie, in the first few years, he was known to go out and be that clutch factor, the scorer. You would have thought with LeBron there, he should average a double-double a game. So it is a surprising stat. Last year he averaged 6.9. This year he's averaging his career high.
So it's a little bit better. But you would still think it would be around, for him, he's averaging 28.5. You should average around that, but with also like 9 assists per game.
Yeah. And that all comes down to they do have him scoring more. He is handling the ball more, but they do have, I guess you can call it other talent. Spencer Dinwiddie, I think, is great when he comes off the bench. So he does have a little bit of help, but you would assume 7 assists for Kyrie Irving. It makes you wonder because he's shooting 44%, which is pretty damn good. He's in the game 34 minutes. And then, you have guys like James Harden, there's a stat there. It's like how often, what's the percentage, the time of possession, if you want to call it, that he's handling the ball. I don't have that stat.
The usage?
The usage, yeah, I'm curious to know what that stat is. So maybe there's a huge discrepancy between Kyrie and a guy who does average 10 assists a game. But you would think if he's averaging 29 points a game, he has the ball a lot.
The usage percentage for him this year is 34%, which is the career high.
Okay, so he is averaging, which that reflects his points, his point total.
Yeah. When he won the championship with LeBron, was it in 17 where they won? Like summer of 17, or was it summer of 16?
I believe that was summer of 16 because then it was the Warriors in 17. Or I could be wrong. No, Warriors won back-to-back after that.
All right, so...
And then it was Toronto, so it was summer of 16.
Yeah, all right. So the year after they won the championship, he had a usage of like 30.8. And then he went to Boston, had 31. And then he has 34 this year.
Yeah, that's actually a good stat because I just pulled it up. And, of course, James Harden is one of the highest at 38 out of starters. 38, which reflects highly on, well, for one, he scores a lot, goes to the line a lot, and his assist total is pretty high. Giannis is up there and Luka. So that just goes to show right there. So that does make a huge difference. Kyrie is right there with pretty much the pack of Trae Young, Kawhi Leonard, D'Angelo Russell, who's now hurt. So I don't know. I guess that I've never really looked down on Kyrie for his assist total, but now that you mention it, it's low. It is low.
Yeah, and I think it could be like a factor in why a lot of his teams struggle when he's on the court and when he's playing a game.
Yeah, he dribbles a lot.
Yeah, I think he dribbles too much then, and I think the flow's off.
Yeah. I would say it's safe to say, and it all comes down to the style of basketball because everybody has their own style, and then again, there's those stat stuffers, cherry pickers. Rebounds, definitely, besides Andre Drummond and a couple other guys who truly do dominate the paint, that's not, I don't look down on a point guard for not averaging 10 rebounds a game. It's cool that, you have Russ who can average a triple-double, Luka and James Harden. Like, that's all fine and dandy because of the rebound total, but I think the big thing is assists because assists reflect points. Rebounds don't. Offensive rebounds could. But with Kyrie, you would assume more out of that. Just in general, though, that whole Brooklyn team they're not bad without Durant being over 500.
There's one guy, speaking of rebounds, Clint Capella.
Oh, man.
I saw a stat for him the other day. He had like 7 games in a row. I want to try to find his game totals, game logs. But this year he's averaging 14.7 rebounds per game, which is pretty good. I'm trying to find his game total at the moment.
So there's the stat would be the comparison to Dennis Rodman, which was 7 consecutive games of 19 or more rebounds.
Yeah.
Like, when you look at it, you think, okay, 19 rebounds, you're a center. In a game or two, maybe 3. Because Andre Drummond has back-to-back 20-20 games, which is unheard. That's pretty good. But 7 consecutive for a guy who's on a team with Harden and Westbrook who love to grab boards, that's not easy.
Yeah, it is 7 games in a row. He did sit out 2 games in there, but he had 20 rebounds, 20 rebounds, 20 rebounds, 20 rebounds, 21, 19, and then 23. In a couple of those games, he had 20-plus points. It's weird. In a couple of them, he's had negative plus-minuses. Like, I know rebounds don't determine plus-minus.
Correct.
It seems like he grabs every board. So that's just, like, an insane stat that he's, like, underrated. No one really talks about him. He got paid a bit.
He did,
but
yeah.
You don't really hear his name brought up. And it seems like he scores a decent bit, too, in those games. 21, 17, 12, 22, 12, 11, 16.
Yeah, so the thing with Capella, he's averaging 32 minutes a game, which I would say is a good amount for a starting center. He's only 25 years old. As you just mentioned, he's scoring the ball. He's shooting almost 64% from the field, which you definitely want and need as a winning organization from a center to complement James Harden and Russell Westbrook and, Tucker and all these other guys who can really ball. And if you look at the standings, and that's why it reflects. If you look at the standings, they're 11-6. Now, in the West is usually the stronger conference, so they are not top 4. They're 5th right now, but they're right there with Dallas. They're right there with the Clippers. The Lakers are just in their own world right now. They're in their own world, but the Rockets right now, Clint Capella is definitely having an all-star year. I wouldn't be surprised to see all 3 in the all-star game.
Yep.
Which is in Chicago this year.
It's unfortunate that it's so expensive. I've looked at tickets multiple times, and it's like, oh, get this $2,000 all-star package. And I'm like,
it's a 3-day weekend. I don't even know if that includes hotels. Like, when I looked, when the tickets were first on sale, I think the cheapest ticket was all-star game, horrible, like, you're up in, there's no nosebleeds, but we can call it nosebleeds, right? And then you get the, the whole weekend. You get the all-star game, the dunk contest, 3-point contest. You get the rising stars. You get the challenges. It's all fun. I love watching that. I think it's fun to watch. I don't watch it nearly as much as I used to because, simply the dunk contest, they don't put the best dunkers in there. They have some good dunkers, but not the best. But it was like $1,400. And I'm just thinking of warm weather somewhere in the tropics for for around that price, for a whole week.
It's like a dream. Like growing up, it's like, oh, I want to see the All-Star game in Chicago.
We haven't had it since MJ.
Yeah. Even like with baseball, like no All-Star games have been in Chicago. So it would have been sick to see. I'm not going to dish out the money for that. It's kind of like with MLB. It hasn't been in Chicago since 2003, since US Cellular.
Yeah, US Cellular had it.
Luckily for me, this past year, I got to go to the MLB All-Star game, and I got to get that whole experience for free, thanks to Sony San Diego Studio. Hoping to go again next year. We'll have to see on that, but like, unless you get to go for free, it's hard to justify the money to go to that.
That's not including the money you're going to spend while you're there.
Yeah,
you have to eat. Right, you have to drink some sort of beer. I'm gonna drink some beer.
Traffic and stuff.
Traffic, Chicago's
from out of town.
Exactly. So, who knows? Maybe we'll hit the lottery tomorrow, and if I tell you what, if I hit the lottery, I'm gonna take you and one lucky fan.
Yeah. All right. That'll be a good deal.
So, but back to the NBA. Overall, definitely some nice feats there with Clint Capella. We have Lakers. I always like to touch base with them. I'm a huge LeBron James fan. One day we'll talk about the LeBron versus Michael, saga. I don't want to get into that right now. That's a whole separate ballpark. But
Luka's been going off.
Luka's going off. Mavericks are just, I think, a fun team to watch simply because of Luka. And then they have Kristaps Porzingis with longest arms I've ever seen, averaging his couple blocks a game. Phoenix are still winning. I almost said football. They're still winning basketball games even without DeAndre Ayton.
Yeah,
Devin
8-8.
Devin Booker's good.
Thunder's not looking too great.
Yeah, I didn't expect much from OKC.
I thought maybe with Chris Paul he might excel him a little bit, but
they're Chris Paul. They pretty much were like, you're gonna go back to where you played before, and you're gonna be happy, and that's where you're gonna end your career. Maybe, I don't know.
I was getting ready to wrap this up. We didn't talk about how Joel Embiid went 32 minutes yesterday, and he scored 0 points.
0 points.
0 points. Joel Embiid, one of the best, if not the best center in the league.
Yeah.
On Marcus Gasol, 0 points.
0 points. Drake was sitting there trolling him. He looked defeated.
How do you not score a single point?
Especially when it comes down to he's huge for one. He's a big guy. You would assume He's getting to the free throw line. He can move. He can move. He can get to the hole. He didn't hit a three. He didn't hit a mid-range jumper, turnaround, nothing. Like, absolutely, you never, if you told me this season, $1,000, let's make a bet, Joel Embiid's not going to score in one game, I would bet you on that. That's unheard of.
Especially with his height, you would think he would get at least one chance underneath the basket.
Yeah, it was just overall. I mean, he grabbed 13 rebounds, which he should at this point. But yeah, 0 for 11 from the field, not a single free throw. That was a tough game to watch because the Raptors they're still a good team.
They're solid without Kawhi.
They're a solid team without Kawhi, which they were okay before Kawhi, I guess.
Also, the 76ers added Al Horford, so it's not like he was their only big man down low. You would think maybe Horford gets it, dumps it to Embiid.
Horford, Tobias Harris, somebody would open it up for Embiid. They played it well. They played it very well. Yeah, that was yesterday's game. 32 minutes.
Missed all his free throws. 5 fouls, so he's probably in foul trouble a lot the whole game too. Wasn't as aggressive. Yeah, I had to almost forgot that.
Yeah, I almost forgot.
That was a big point.
To touch base on that. I'm glad you brought that up because, I mean, I personally, I do like Joel Embiid. I think he's a stud. When he's cooking, nobody's stopping him. But this dude trolls a lot, and he talks his shit. So for him to go 0 for 11 and humble him, hopefully a little bit, he needed that. I wouldn't be surprised he comes out in the next game and drops 40 points.
Yeah, that'd be awesome to see.
Which it's against the Kings, which the Kings had Buddy Hield go off, I think yesterday it was. He hit, I think, 12 threes in his game, had like 41, 42 points. So that's another quiet star over there. The Kings have some talent. That's another one. There's not much to talk about right now outside of, the talent that we see, the young talent with Buddy Hield, and they do have who's the point guard I'm drawing a blank on right now.
De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah, De'Aaron Fox. I love De'Aaron Fox so much that I forgot his name for a second. But they do have some good young talent there. But as of right now, there's not much to really say.
Mm-hmm.
But
not much. We pretty much covered basis on the NBA. NBA covering week to week. Not much changes.
There's a couple games. Like we said, if there's drama, if somebody's getting choked out by Ben Simmons.
Or a change in performance. Like Luka, we've been talking about him for weeks.
Yeah.
LeBron, we've been talking about for weeks. They just are consistent.
They're the front runners. They're winning. They're putting up the numbers. Jokic is another one in Denver. I don't know if anybody saw his no-look pass. I think it was yesterday. I've never seen a center have the skill set, the passing skill set that he does. When we had Joakim Noah in Chicago, and you're like, man, this guy's averaging 5-6 assists a game, almost a double-double sometimes. You're like, wow, he can pass the ball. But this guy is tricky with it. No-look passes, fun to watch. Is he a potential MVP candidate? I guess. Denver's always good, but, I mean, compared to LeBron and Luka.
He's always underrated. He doesn't get the spotlight, which will not result in an MVP.
Yeah. Last year I know he was in the running, but it's just he doesn't
have that star power.
Exactly.
The NBA voting MVP wise, they love the stories, which is why you don't see back-to-back MVPs a lot anymore.
Yep.
Or if a guy has won a bunch of MVPs, you'll see like a guy win it for the first time. NBA voters are weird with voting MVPs. They don't look at the stats. They're just like, oh my God, this guy had the best storyline throughout the year. He deserves it.
Right. So I wouldn't be surprised at this rate. Carmelo wins Comeback Player of the Year. So, which at this point he might as well. But yeah, I think that's got to cover it for NBA. There's not a whole lot going on. It will eventually build up as we get towards Christmas and the trade deadline comes around
with important
All-Star.
games.
Yeah, important games. Yeah, there's definitely a lot. And it's still early. We are seeing the divisions kind of break open. We see Milwaukee starting to dominate. We know, which we figured, it's the East, Milwaukee, Boston, 76ers, and then the West. The West is definitely one to watch because these teams are all so close to top 5, top 6, and there's so much talent there. So I still think the Lakers are going to stay golden as a top 1 or 2 seed. Clippers will be good. But we'll still continue to talk about that as the season goes on. But that's pretty much it. Again, I just want to thank everybody for listening in. It is the week of Thanksgiving. I hope everybody watching, listening, tuning in, you guys have a great time with your families, whoever it is. You enjoy your day off. If you're working retail, which we don't have to do.
No,
not anymore. Hopefully you guys stay safe out there. Black Friday shopping is a little hectic, maybe not as bad as it used to be. But I do truly wish everybody will have a great holiday. Again, thank you guys for tuning in. We do appreciate the support, the downloads, the subscribes. If you can, just remember on Instagram, Twitter, SR Only Pod. YouTube, Standing Room Only Podcast, Spotify, Standing Room Only Podcast.
Share it with your friends.
Yeah.
Share it. We're trying to get it out there. If you think it's good, other people might as well. And it could be a good talking point for your friend group or whatever.
Whatever it may be.
If you have someone that likes sports and they do listen to podcasts, let them know.
Yeah.
We're trying to get out there.
Yeah, we're going to be out there. So truly, basically what Healy just said, if you enjoy listening to us or if you know anybody, show some love. We'll show some love back, and that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Yeah, that'll do it for episode number 5 of the Standing Room Only podcast. You can follow myself, The Healy6, on Twitter and Instagram.
And then you can follow me on Instagram at iGoose. That's the letter I, the word goose, 4 O's. Don't ask why. Just happened that way. And then,
We'll see you guys next week.
Next week.
Have a good one.